let's come back home. Let's come back to metropolitan area in the tri-state area in New York. But let's talk about Miami and let's talk about Philadelphia. One of the probably best series I think we're going to get all playoffs long. I think both these East series are going to kill it. But for me, it's these two. You had the Heat, who took care of business against the Hawks, winning in 5 games. For the Sixers, they defeated the Raptors 4-2. After going up 3-0, Raptors got that 2 games back, but they ended up taking care of business in Game 6. I'm going to toss it to you like I always do. Give me your initial thoughts on this series.
So we kind of got a game changer last night for this series. I mean, Joel Embiid out indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, this was going to be a great series coming in, but for the Sixers to lose their best player, I mean, you can't look past that. That's obviously going to change the course of the series, and now you have James Harden leading the charge. I mean, this version of James Harden, I don't know about it. I mean, there's a lot of concern if you're on the Sixers end.
So Embiid had that orbital bone fracture, they say, and it looked like he was going to try to play through it, but he gets listed as out for Game 1. There's hopes he could return later in the series, but whenever I hear that, I don't always feel that confident.
No.
So I think that's something that you really have to look at. How big is that without having probably the MVP in your lineup? It's huge. Now, James Harden's going to need to play up to fix that. This is a 76ers team that was good before Harden got there. But now when you lose Embiid instead of Harden, that is going to be really the defining thing in this series. But the Heat still have to take care of business, you know? They did their job against the Hawks, but they still got to win 4 games against the 76ers team. I don't think it's as a blowout as some people think. I think the 76ers team still has pieces to compete. Whether they win, I don't think so. I would say it's probably 6 games that the Heat take care of.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing. I mean, I still respect the Sixers, and I think they're good. Now, the Heat are a little banged up also, but, I mean, the rest in Game 5 of the Hawks series, they kind of seem to be precautionary because I don't think there's any real doubt that they were getting by Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, don't disrespect to Atlanta, but the Heat are just on a different level, and now the Heat are a really good defensive team, and you know the big thing for them was that they were switching on defense a lot, and they're really good at that, and it's going to be a lot easier without Embiid now. I mean, Embiid's a really good scoring option, so you take away him, and you really just got to focus on James Harden and then kind of take it from there. So I think, the Embiid absence, I don't know what his timetable is to come back in this series, if he's coming back, but...
Yeah, I don't think there's a timetable. Listen, when Kawhi Leonard went down in that playoff series, I think 2 years ago, or a year ago, and he had the ACL injury, they were saying that he could have come back, and I think they knew well in advance that he wasn't going to be able to. In many ways, it's just a game to try to inspire some hope that you can still win this series. Now, will I think Joel Embiid has a chance of playing? Yes, I do. But I think the Sixers are going to have to win this without him.
Yeah, I mean,
they can't rely on Embiid coming back to save the day.
Embiid's, he's going to want to play. He's going to want to be competitive. But ultimately, you got to just look at it and exactly what you said. Got to win without him, which I don't think they will. Not against this Miami Heat team. This Miami Heat team, number 1 seed in the East, and just a great team with a lot of really good players, and I just don't think they're going to do it. So, much like you, I'm also going to go Heat in 6.
Yeah, the Heat, great defensive team, allowed the 4th least points across the entire NBA this season. They struggle a little more on the offensive side of things, but when it comes to defending the Sixers without Embiid, that's all they're really going to need to do to take care of this one. I'm also going 6 games as well. I think it's going to be a little closer than maybe some people think, because I still think the 76ers have some really good pieces, but the Embiid loss is huge, and that's really going to, dictate the series.
Yeah, I mean, that's the deciding factor. That's literally, I thought this series would go 7, and the Sixers had a shot, but I saw Embiid was going out, and I had to adjust course and say, no, I think the Heat are obviously the favorites here.
So that brings us to our last series in the East, and this is the series, I think.
I can't wait to talk about this. I can't wait for this series.
So it's the Milwaukee Bucks and it is the Boston Celtics. The Bucks take care of business against the Bulls, winning 4-1, winning in 5 games. The Celtics, they get the clean sweep over the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They have all the momentum right now. We saw that at the end of the year, blowing out teams, probably the best defensive team in basketball. This, for me, is the NBA championship. I think the winner of this is probably going to go on to win it all. I think the Suns might have something to say about that. But for me, this is almost like the NBA championship. Whoever wins this, I think, has a clean route, to the finals.
I think similarly to you, not exactly to that extent where the winner of this wins the finals, but I think whoever wins this series is coming out of the East. No question about it.
Yeah, I don't, especially with Embiid down. I don't see the Heat as that much of a. I know they're first in the East, but I still think the Celtics and Bucks are the better teams.
I agree. Yeah. The thing is with this series that I think you got to look at. I mean, these are two like real big powerhouses in the East, and a matchup nightmare for teams. And now these two teams are playing each other. So I think this is going to be great. But Chris Middleton out for the Bucks is massive. That's a huge loss, and it's really something the Bucks are going to have to rebound from, and really a lot of guys are going to have to step up because they got to win without him. They're without him the whole series.
Yeah, I think Giannis creates the matchup problems for the Celtics. This is a Boston team that switches best in basketball.
Yeah, no question.
They have 1 through 5 ability to switch on the pick and roll, which is why I think they would be amazing against the 76ers, and really same with Miami. Giannis is going to present a problem for anyone. You know that, but if any team can contain him, I think it's the Celtics. Second best defensive rating in basketball this season. They allowed the least points against and throughout the season. And the way Jason Tatum's playing, the way Jaylen Brown's playing, Marcus Smart, that chemistry they have, not many teams have that. I think the Bucks have that, but it's rare to get, and that offense has started to roll. We saw that against the Nets series. They've got everything it takes to win it all, and I think Tatum's becoming that player that you can build around and really say, we've got a top 10 player in the NBA.
Yeah, Jason Tatum, he really stepped up this year and really kind of cemented himself as one of the top players in the league. And, he's huge for the Celtics team and huge to their success. And also all the other guys on offense. I mean, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, these guys are going to be cause problems for a lot of teams. And I mean, you can't not mention their defense. I mean, the defense is what makes the Celtics so great. I mean, we saw them lock up KD like I don't think we've ever seen it before, and it was so frustrating as a Nets fan to watch because, you're used to KD scoring easily and just being unfair to guard, but now the Celtics seemingly were able to do it easily. And, we haven't seen teams lock up KD like that. So you got to wonder, can they do the same to Giannis? But Giannis presents all kinds of different problems than KD, and he almost seems unguardable. But we thought the same for KD. Are the Celtics going to do the same for Giannis?
I think a good question is who could stop Tatum? 29-plus points per game in the 4 games against Brooklyn. He was absolutely dominant. He shot over 45% from the field, over 40% from 3. He is ready to take this next step. I was watching an interview with him, and he was basically talking about when he lost in the bubble, he was like, I got so many more years ahead of me. I'm not that worried about it. And he was saying he looked back at that, and he says it's so hard to win in the league. You never know when you're going to do it. It could be year 1. It could be year 15. You got to take advantage of every opportunity. I think Tatum, I think Brown, I think Smart, I think the rest of the roster knows that, and they have the chemistry now where if they defeat the Bucks, which I think they will, I'm going to take Celtics in I'm going to take Celtics in 6 because I don't know if it gets to 7. I think this Boston team's that good. But if they can take care of business, I don't see why they can't win it all. They're probably my favorites to win it all, if I'd say right now.
I think so, too. I mean, witnessing firsthand how good the Celtics are, and especially, they don't have the record that the Suns had, but, I mean, towards the end of the year, they easily could have been just as good because they went on a crazy run at the end of the year, and it's continued right into the playoffs. You swept the Brooklyn Nets in the first round.
Come on. Brooklyn Nets were the preseason favorite to win it all. I mean, you're talking about that team and the fact that, I know everything they underwent this season, losing James Harden, Kyrie Irving in and out, Joe Harris going down with the injury. They had a lot going down. Mm-hmm. But that does not take away from the job the Celtics did, and I know we're going to get to that soon. But when you look at the series between the Bucks, between the Celtics, for me, it's all Celtics.
Yeah, and I mean, when you talk about that Nets series, obviously we're going to get into the Nets and how big of a disappointment that was, but you can't take away credit from the Celtics. I mean, that was a really good team that they swept, and you look at it coming into this series, against the Bucks. I mean, I think it's going to be tougher, but I think the Celtics are going to pull this out. I really think that this Celtics team is really talented, and they're probably the favorites to win it all. I'm agreeing with you. They're the favorites to win it all. I think the Suns and the Warriors have a shot to kind of say something about that, but the Celtics have been really good, so that's why I'm taking them in this series. It's going to be close. I think it's
going 7?
I'm going 7. I think.